Okay, so hello, we're going to try one of these problems, and I'll kind of talk as I'm doing it just so that you know what my thinking is as I go through this. So I will go ahead and read it first. It says, summer squash is a type of vegetable. Agricultural studies have shown that in summer squash, the white fruit is dominant to the yellow fruit. Predict the color of the squash produced by the offspring of a heterozygous white squash plant and a yellow squash plant. All right, so what I always do is here, you're given the letters for the alleles. So remember, these are each alleles. Okay, so the white, um, white, okay, is of course the dominant. So it gets the capital W, which represents its allele. And the yellow is the recessive, so that gets a lowercase w. Now those represent the alleles, and remember genotypes have both or two alleles because we're dealing with a diploid organism which has two copies of each gene or chromosome ultimately. So it says predict the color of the squash produced by the offspring of a heterozygous white squash plant. So remember, to have whites, you must have at least one of these alleles, the dominant allele. And heterozygous means basically, remember, they have one of each. So we have this individual here, and we're crossing it with a yellow squash plant. Okay, so in order to show the recessive phenotype, which is yellow, both the alleles must be the recessive allele. Okay, so you're crossing it with that. Now, let's go ahead and draw a Punnett square. It's not going to be very pretty, but that's okay. So we have a Punnett square. Now we want to separate the alleles because each of the alleles in each individual are going to be separated during the formation of gametes. So when we separate this right here, this represents basically 50% of the gametes are going to have the dominant allele and 50% of the gametes are going to have the recessive allele. And for this one, all of the gametes are going to have the recessive allele because that's what basically that individual only has. So when you want to bring down the W's, so we're going to kind of bring down these W's right here, okay, and then bring down the little case w from this one, and then bring the lowercase from each of these. Okay, so now we have the Punnett square, and it looks like half of the offspring are going to be heterozygous and half of the offspring are going to be homozygous recessive. Okay, so remember, homozygous recessive is going to be that individual which has both the same allele and it happens to be the recessive allele. Now it says, predict the color of the squash produced by the offspring. All right, so what are the colors of the squash? Remember, the color is the phenotype. Okay, so I'm going to kind of expand on this a little bit. So in terms of phenotype, okay, that's going to be white or yellow. Okay, so when we predict it, it's not asking for anything specific, but I'm going to go ahead and again expand on this. So we know that half of them are going to be white and half of them are going to be yellow. So that is equal to, so this could be or 50%, right? Or 50%, okay? Or 0.5, which would be the frequency, or 0.5. Right, so this is the frequency of each of the phenotypes. Okay, so this is a 1-to-1 ratio. Basically, they are the same in terms of numbers. Same thing with the genotypes. So I'm going to go ahead and put genotypes over here. Okay, so we have 3 possible genotypes, right? So remember this. We have homozygous dominant, we have heterozygote, and homozygous recessive. Okay, so none of them are homozygous dominant. Okay, now 1/2 of them are heterozygotes, and 1/2 are homozygous recessive. Okay, so again, the same numbers apply. So this could be 50%, this could be 50%, this could be 0.5, this one could be 0.5. And again, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. It doesn't always work this way, but this is probably one of the more simple examples of problems. Okay, so hopefully that helps. We're going to kind of move into some more difficult ones.